I found a girl. She keeps calling me Dad. Rory, don't call me Dad. Call me Leo. Dad. Leo. Oh, Dad. My name is Leo Vance. I'm 25, with a face so average you'd lose me in a crowd in under 3 seconds. After clocking out, I was debating whether to grab a slice from the pizza place downstairs or splurge on DoorDash when a flicker of movement caught my eye. Next to a dumpster on the side of the road, a woman was leaning halfway inside, digging through the trash. In a big city, it's not an uncommon sight, usually someone older, down on their luck. But her silhouette didn't fit. She looked young, early 20s at most. Her hair was a tangled bird's nest, her face smudged with grime, and her clothes were so dirty you couldn't tell their original color, though the fabric looked expensive. She pulled a half-empty water bottle from the garbage, twisted the cap, and chugged the remaining contents. Seeing that, my misplaced sense of compassion kicked into overdrive. I walked over. Hey, are you okay? I stopped a few feet away, speaking cautiously. My voice startled her. She shot up like a feral cat, clutching the empty bottle. As her head snapped up, I saw her face for the first time. Beneath the dirt, her features were delicate, especially her eyes. They were huge and bright, but vacant, hollowed out, filled with a bewilderment that seemed completely out of place in this world. She stared at me for a few seconds, then her lips parted into a goofy, simple smile. Dad, that single, crisp word knocked the wind out of me. Me? Dad? I'm 25. I haven't even seen a girlfriend on the horizon, let alone produced a fully grown daughter. You must have me confused with someone else, I said, scratching my head. I could feel the stares of passers-by, starting to curdle. Dad, she called out again. This time, she dropped the bottle and stumbled toward me, grabbing my arm with surprising strength. The smell hit me then, a sour mix of unwashed body and garbage that nearly made me pass out on the spot. Dad, I'm hungry, she said, tilting her head back to look at me, her eyes misty and pleading. The looks from the crowd intensified. Disdain. Curiosity. A few people pulled out their phones, whispering and pointing. Look at that guy. Young, but he's into some weird stuff. Kids these days, no shame. Doing this kind of role play in public. Daddy kink? Edgy. The whispers hit me like physical blows. My face burned a deep shade of crimson. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. I had never been so publicly mortified in my 25 years of life. I'm not your dad. Let go of me. I hissed, trying to pry her fingers off my arm. But she clung to me like a koala, repeating over and over, Dad, go home, hungry. There was no explaining my way out of this. Looking at her, it was obvious something wasn't right upstairs. If I left her here, she probably wouldn't survive. Fine, whatever. I'll just chalk it up as my good deed for the decade. Okay, I'll take you home. Just let go first. We have to walk, I sighed, giving up the struggle. The word home made her eyes light up. She loosened her grip slightly, but kept a firm hold on the corner of my shirt, terrified-eyed bolt. I endured a gauntlet of strange looks all the way back to my 320-square-foot studio apartment, practically fleeing the scene. Once inside, she looked around as if she'd discovered a new continent, curiously touching everything. My place was sparse, a bed, a desk, and not much else, but she seemed fascinated. Have a seat. I'll find you something to eat, I said, pointing to the single chair. She sat down obediently, her hands placed neatly on her knees like a first grader waiting for a gold star. I opened the fridge. It was nearly empty. A few eggs and a packet of instant ramen. It would have to do. I fried 2 eggs and made a bowl of soupy noodles, placing in front of her. Here, eat up. Be careful, it's hot. Her eyes locked onto the food. Forgetting the heat, she grabbed the chopsticks and started shoveling noodles into her mouth. I was about to tell her slow down, but before I could speak, she was slurping them down with a desperate hunger that made my chest ache. How long had it been since she'd eaten? The bowl was empty in minutes, every last drop of broth gone. She set it down, licked her lips, and looked up at me with that same silly grin. Dad, yummy. Looking at her face, smudged like a little kitten's, I couldn't help but smile back. I handed her a napkin. Wipe your mouth. Now that you've eaten, go take a shower. You're filthy. I pulled an old t-shirt and a pair of gym shorts from my closet. They'd be huge on her, but anything was better than what she was wearing. I pushed her into the bathroom, pointed at the shower head, and spent 5 minutes miming how to use it. She seemed a little afraid of the water, but stepped in obediently. I waited outside for a full half hour, listening to the water running, my stomach in knots, worried she might have slipped or hurt herself. Finally, the bathroom door opened. I turned at the sound and froze. A figure stood framed in the doorway, wreathed in steam. Her wet, dark hair cascaded over her shoulders like a black waterfall. A few stray strands clung to her forehead and cheeks. Water droplets traced a path from the ends of her hair to the pale skin of her collarbone before disappearing into the collar of my oversized t-shirt. My old shirt hung loosely on her, like a child playing dress-up, the hem reaching her mid-thighs and making her seem even more petite. Her legs were long and slender, their fairness almost glowing in the soft light of the apartment. But it was her face, washed clean of all the grime. It was as if she were a different person. Her skin was a translucent, flawless white, like polished jade. Her features were perfectly sculpted, arched brows, a high nose, and lips that were a natural, soft pink, now glistening from steam. Her eyes, no longer vacant and lost, were like two pools of clear spring water. While they still held no discernible emotion, just looking at you was enough to make your heart skip a beat. Was this the same girl I'd found digging through a dumpster? This was a goddess fallen to earth. I stared, my mouth hanging open, unable to form a single word. I finally understood what natural beauty meant. She seemed puzzled by my stunned silence. She tilted her head, sending a cascade of dark hair, swinging and releasing the clean scent of my shampoo. Then, her lips curved into that familiar, slightly goofy smile. Dad, that one word yanked me back from my awestruck haze and into reality. A hot blush crept up my neck. I quickly looked away, my heart hammering against my ribs. Oh God, what kind of trouble had I brought home? A beautiful girl, clearly not in her right mind, clinging to me and calling me Dad. If anyone found out, 100 explanations wouldn't be enough to clear my name. Ahem, dry your hair. You'll catch a cold. I mumbled, pulling a dry towel from the rack and walking toward her. But instead of taking it, she simply lowered her head like a child, presenting it to me. I sighed, right? She wanted me to do it. Resigned, I draped the towel over her head and began to gently, awkwardly, pat her hair dry. It was soft and silky, cool against my fingers. Being this close, I could smell the clean, fresh scent of soap and shampoo rising from her skin. My heart rate kicked up another notch, and to my utter shame, my body reacted. I quickly bent over, trying to hide it. Dad, why are you bending over? She asked curiously. My stomach hurts, I blurted out. It'll be fine in a minute. Oh, she said, not pressing the issue. Thank God. After getting her hair mostly dry, I realized I hadn't solved the dinner problem. That single bowl of ramen was barely a snack. Are you still hungry? I can make something else. Hungry, she nodded enthusiastically, her eyes sparkling. I sat her down on the chair in the living area and went back to the kitchen. With no other groceries, I scrambled the rest of the eggs with half a tomato I found and heated up a couple of dinner rolls. As soon as I set the plate on the table, she was there like a kitten drawn to milk. Eat slowly. No one's going to steal it, I said, handing her a fork. She took it but didn't eat. Instead, she picked up the largest piece of egg and shakily held it to my lips. Dad, eat. She looked up at me, her eyes full of earnest expectation. My heart warmed, a strange mix of amusement and emotion welling up inside me. Was this a daughter's offering? I hesitated for a second before opening my mouth and taking a bite. It's good, I told her. Hearing my praise, her whole face lit up, her eyes curving into happy crescents. Only then did she lower her head and begin to eat with gusto. Watching her eat with such satisfaction, the anxiety and worry that had been churning in my stomach miraculously vanished. Whatever, I'll just take this one day at a time. It's not like I could throw her back out on the street. After dinner and dishes, I decided I had talked to her, or at least try to figure out who she was and where she came from. I had her sit on the edge of the bed while I pulled up the chair, facing her with a serious expression. Okay, I'm going to ask you a few questions. I need you to answer them as best you can. All right? She nodded, though I wasn't sure she understood. What's your name? I asked, pointing at her. She looked at me, blinked, and then chirped sweetly, Dad. No, I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. I'm asking for your name. My name is Leo. What's yours? She seemed not to comprehend the question and simply repeated, Dad. Fine. Skip that one. Where do you live? Do you remember your address? She shook her head, her eyes a blank canvas. How old are you? Can you remember that? She shook her head again. Do you have your family's phone number? Or anything with your name on it? Shake, shake, and another shake. I spent 15 minutes asking questions. No matter what I asked, her only answers were a shake of the head or Dad. I finally gave up. It was clear that besides that one word, her mind was a complete blank. It was getting late. Time for bed, which brought a new problem, the sleeping arrangements. My tiny apartment had only one full-size bed. I looked at her, and she looked back at me with those big, innocent eyes, radiating complete dependence. There was no way. We could sleep in the same bed, right? Even if she wasn't all there, she was still a girl, and I was a guy. What if I lost control? I couldn't even think about it. You sleep on the bed, I declared, pointing. I'll sleep on the floor. I pulled my only spare comforter from the closet and started making a pallet on the floor. But as soon as I laid it out, she scrambled off the bed, ran to my side, and clutched the corner of my shirt, her face crumpling as if she were about to cry. Dad, she whispered, her voice laced with anxiety and hurt. What's wrong? Together, she said, pointing for the bed to me. No, I refused, more sharply than I intended. My rejection seemed to terrify her. Her eyes welled up, and fat tears started rolling down her cheeks. She didn't make a sound, just stood there crying silently, looking at me with the most pathetic expression I had ever seen. I have a crippling weakness for crying girls, especially one this beautiful. My resolve melted instantly. Okay, fine. Not on the floor, not on the floor. I surrendered, holding my hands up. Here's the deal. You sleep on that side, I'll sleep on this side, and we'll put a barrier between us. No crossing the line, got it? I stood a pillow on its side, creating a makeshift Mason-Dixon line down the middle of the mattress. Seeing that I'd relented, her tears vanished as quickly as they'd come. She broke into a smile, scurried onto the bed, and obediently laid down on her side, even patting the empty space next to her for me. I hesitated for a long time before finally lying down. The bed wasn't big. Even with the pillow wall, I could feel the warmth radiating from her body and smell that faint, clean scent. I lay there stiff as a board, not daring to move, my palms sweating. It was the first time in my life I'd ever shared a bed with a girl, albeit under unique circumstances. She, on the other hand, seemed completely untroubled. Within minutes, her breathing evened out. She was asleep. Listening to the soft rhythm of her breath, my own tense muscles began to relax. I turned my head, and in the moonlight filtering through the window, I could see her peaceful face. Her long lashes cast soft shadows on her cheeks. She's so beautiful, I thought, unable to help myself. Who is she? Where did she come from? Her family must be going out of their minds with worry. My thoughts drifted, and eventually I fell asleep. And so, my adopted daughter started living with me. Days bled into one another. I gave her a nickname, Rory. It just seemed to fit her somehow. Not that she ever responded to it. The concept of a name didn't seem to exist in her mind. To take care of her, I had to rush home from work every day. As soon as I opened the door, I'd find her curled up on the small sofa like a puppy, watching mindless cartoons on TV. The sound of the door would make her head snap up, her eyes would light up, and she'd run to me barefoot, her arms wide open. Dad, you're home. It was the second sentence she learned. I dropped my briefcase, give her a hug, then lift her onto the sofa to put her slippers on, chiding her. How many times have I told you? Don't go barefoot, the floor's cold. She'd just giggle, not paying any mind to my words. Her ability to learn was actually impressive, but only for simple, everyday things. She quickly learned how to drink from a cup and use the remote, though she only ever flipped between cartoon channels. I taught her how to brush her teeth. At first, she got foam all over her face, but after a couple of days, she had it down. But on the one thing that mattered, she was stubborn as a mule. I tried to correct her countless times. Rory, don't call me Dad. Call me Leo. Dad, Leo, I'd say, pointing to myself and enunciating each syllable. She would mimic me earnestly, whispering, oh, thinking I'd made a breakthrough. I'd nod in satisfaction. Right, call me that from now on. The next second, she'd beam and chirp Dad. I was completely defeated. Slowly, I just got used to it. Hearing her call me that at home, it actually felt kind of nice. For the first time, this empty apartment started to feel like a home. I started learning to cook. I used to survive on takeout and cheap noodles, but that wasn't an option anymore. I couldn't have her eating junk food with me. Following recipes on my phone, I graduated from simple scrambled eggs to honey-glazed chicken wings and barbecue ribs. My cooking skills improved by leaps and bounds. Every time I made a meal, Rory was my biggest fan. Dad, yummy. Dad, this is so good. Dad, more. Watching her eat, her little mouth greasy and her eyes shining, gave me an incredible sense of accomplishment. I put more food on her plate and wipe her mouth, telling her to slow down, while secretly feeling happier than I'd been in years. I also took her shopping for new clothes. Standing in the middle of a women's clothing store, I felt completely out of place, with sales associates and other customers staring at me. Sir, are you buying something for your girlfriend? You should check this out. It's our new spring collection, a saleswoman said cheerfully. No, it's for my Zista Elite. I could hardly say it was for my daughter. Relying on my questionable male taste, I picked out a few simple t-shirts and dresses. She wasn't picky at all. Whatever I gave her, she wore, happy just to have something new. When she walked out of the dressing room in a simple white sundress, the entire store seemed to fall silent. She looked so clean, so pure, like a jasmine flower untouched by the world. In that moment, a fierce, protective urge washed over me. This beautiful, fragile girl. I had to take care of her. Of course, living together wasn't always a sweet domestic fantasy. Sometimes it was complete chaos. Like the time I came home from work to find my apartment flooded. Water was pouring out of the bathroom, covering the entire living room floor. Rory was sitting on the sofa, her feet submerged, happily splashing away. I almost had a heart attack. It turned out she was trying to do laundry like she'd seen me do, but had forgotten to turn off the faucet. I was caught between anger and amusement, but in the end, I just grabbed a mop and began damage control. She tried to help, which only made things worse. She slipped and fell on her, but splashing water all over me. Seeing her sitting in the puddle, soaked and looking utterly lost, my anger evaporated. What could I do? She was my responsibility. Her possessiveness was also intense. Whenever I was home, she'd follow me like a shadow. If I went to the bathroom, she'd pull up a stool and wait right outside the door. If I tried to read a book, she'd curl up and fall asleep on my lap. One time, I had to stay late for an emergency at work. When I finally got home, I found her huddled in a corner by the front door in the dark. She was just a tiny, miserable ball. I called her name, and her head shot up. Seeing me, her eyes immediately turned red. She launched herself at me, burying her face in my chest and clinging to me. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. My heart felt like it was being squeezed. I held her, stroking her back. "I'm sorry I'm so late. Were you scared?" She just shook her head against my chest, refusing to let go. She was extra clingy that night, holding onto my shirt even in her sleep, as if afraid I'd disappear again. After that, I never dared to come home late again. Sometimes in the dead of night, I'd look at her sleeping next to me and feel lost. How long could this last? Where was her family? One day, she would get her memory back. She would leave. The thought of her leaving felt like a fist closing around my heart, tight and painful. I shook my head, tried to push the thought away. For now, she was here. That was enough. A month flew by. Rory had settled in, and my life had been turned completely upside down. I had gone from a lonely, work-eat-sleep drone to, well, a single dad. We fell into a strange, comfortable rhythm. I was in charge of paying the bills and making the meals. She was in charge of being adorable and waiting for me to come home. Every morning, when I got up to make breakfast, she'd stumble out of bed after me, trailing me around the kitchen like a lost puppy. Every evening, I was no longer greeted by a cold, empty room, but by a warm hug and a sweet dad. She still caused trouble sometimes, like when she threw my best white dress shirt in the wash with her new red skirt, turning everything a lovely shade of pink. But when she held up her masterpiece, with that completely innocent look on her face, I couldn't bring myself to be mad. It was Saturday, my one day off. The sun was streaming through the window, painting golden squares on the floor. Rory was sitting cross-legged on the rug, watching SpongeBob SquarePants and giggling. Looking at her profile, an idea popped into my head. She'd been here for a month and had barely left the apartment, aside from trips to the corner store. She deserved to go out and have fun, like any normal 20-something. "Rory," I said, walking over and ruffling her hair. "How about I take you somewhere fun today?" "Fun?" She looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of confusion and excitement. "Yeah, a place with a carousel and a Ferris wheel, and lots of good food." The words good food seemed to click. She nodded vigorously. "Yes, go have fun." Her happiness was infectious. I couldn't help but smile. Half an hour later, we were on a bus heading to the amusement park on the outskirts of the city. As soon as we got on, Rory was like a bird freed from a cage, curious about everything. She pressed her face against the window, pointing at skyscrapers and billboards, letting out little gasps of wow. "Dad, look, that car is so long," she exclaimed, pointing a stretch limo. Her clear, loud voice immediately drew the attention of half the bus. Heads turned. Eyes stared. There was curiosity, judgment, and a hint of something else, something vaguely sleazy. I felt the gaze of the woman in the next seat on me like a laser, as if I were some creep who had kidnapped a vulnerable young woman. My face flushed, and I was so embarrassed I could have dug a hole in the floor of the bus with my toes. I leaned in close and whispered, "Rory, quiet down. And when we're outside, don't call me Dad. Call me Leo." "Why?" she asked, turning to me with a look of pure confusion. "But you are Dad." Because... I was stuck. How could I explain social nuances and potential misunderstandings to her? She wouldn't get it. It's our secret, I improvised. You can call me that at home, but not outside. Okay. She nodded, seemingly placated. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, she spotted something else. Dad, look, a plane in the sky, she shouted, even louder than before. I closed my eyes in despair and turned my face to the window, pretending I didn't know her. The entire 1-hour ride was a gauntlet of her cheerful shouts of Dad and the burning stares of everyone on board. It was more exhausting than pulling an all-nighter at work. When we finally got to the amusement park, Rory was awestruck. The giant castle, the colorful windmills, the towering Ferris wheel in the distance. She took it all in with wide eyes. The air smelled sweet with popcorn, and the sound of laughter was everywhere. Her mouth fell open as she gripped my hand, jumping up and down with excitement. In that moment, watching the pure joy on her face, I knew all the torture on the bus had been worth it. I bought her a pair of mouse ears, which she loved, twirling around to look at herself in a nearby window. Then, our adventure began. She was too scared to try the intense roller coasters or drop towers, so we stuck to the tamer rides. We rode the carousel, and she picked the most ornate white horse, laughing like a child as it rose and fell, waving at me every time she passed. I stood outside the railing, taking pictures with my phone, my heart feeling impossibly full. I bought her the biggest cloud of cotton candy, and she ate it like a little hamster, getting pink fluff all over her face. I had to patiently wipe it off with a napkin while she tilted her chin up obediently, her eyes sparkling like they held all the stars in the sky. We even tried the haunted house. She was curious before we went in, but the moment a costumed ghoul jumped out, she let out a piercing scream and practically climbed me like a tree. She buried her face in my chest, squeezing my arm for dear life, and refused to open her eyes. I ended up half dragging, half carrying her through the maze of monsters and demons. She trembled in my arms like a leaf, whimpering, "Dad, I'm scared." In that moment, I felt like a knight saving a princess, filled with the satisfaction of being needed. When we finally stumbled out, her legs were like jelly. She took a long time to recover and refused to go anywhere near the place again. As the day wore on, the sky softened, and the setting sun cast a golden glow over the park. For our last ride, we chose the Ferris wheel. As our car climbed higher, the entire city unfolded beneath us. In the distance were glittering skyscrapers, and below, the streets were rivers of light. Rory stared out the window, mesmerized. When we reached the very top, she suddenly turned and looked at me, her expression serious. "Dad, this is so beautiful," she said. "It's so good to have you." Her gaze was clear and sincere, without a trace of anything but pure emotion. Looking at her face, illuminated by the city lights, I felt a sense of surrealness wash over me. This past month had been like a dream. She had burst into my dull, gray life like a ray of light, illuminating everything. What if this dream never had to end? I reached out and gently tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. She didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled at me, a smile brighter than all the city lights below. We were both exhausted when we got back from the park. I felt like I could sleep for a week, and Rory, after a day of nonstop excitement, was completely drained. She collapsed on the sofa and didn't move. I heated up some leftovers for a simple dinner. Afterwards, she leaned against me, watching some boring soap opera on TV, her eyelids drooping. "Go take a shower and get to bed," I nudged her. "I have work tomorrow." She mumbled a sleepy "okay" and obediently went in the bathroom. After cleaning up, I sank onto the sofa myself, flipping aimlessly through the channels. News, finance, dramas. Nothing held my interest. Just as I was about to turn the TV off, a breaking news report caught my attention. "We interrupt this program with an urgent missing person alert," the anchorwoman said, her expression grave. Aurora Sterling, daughter of renowned entrepreneur and tech titan Julian Sterling, has been missing for over a month after disappearing from the downtown area. Ms. Sterling is 22 years old, 5 feet 6 inches tall, and was last seen wearing. The name Aurora Sterling registered vaguely, but I was mostly just curious to see what a billionaire's daughter looked like. A moment later, a large photo filled the screen. It was a formal portrait of a young woman in a graduation cap and gown, smiling at the camera. She wore light makeup and exuded an air of gentle confidence. Her eyes seemed to sparkle with intelligence. That face! The remote slipped from my hand and clattered onto the floor. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning, frozen in place, the blood turning to ice in my veins. I stared at the face on the screen, then whipped my head toward the bathroom door. It looked like her. No, it wasn't just a resemblance. It was her. Exactly her. The Aurora in the photo had the same features, the same facial structure, even the same slight curve to her smile as the Rory sleeping in my bed. But the woman in the photo was poised and brilliant, while my Rory was an innocent, lost child. My heart began to pound uncontrollably. How could this be? Rory was a billionaire's daughter. Aurora Sterling. Well, Rory. Is that why the name felt so right? The anchor continued. Mr. Sterling has stated that his daughter suffered a traumatic incident and may be experiencing psychological and memory impairment. A $10 million reward is being offered for any information leading to her safe return. $10 million. The number exploded in my fractured mind, but I couldn't even process the money. All I could think was Rory's family had been found. She wasn't a homeless girl I'd rescued from the streets. She had a family, a home, a ridiculously wealthy one. She had a name, Aurora Sterling. She had a father, a titan of industry I'd only ever seen on the cover of business magazines. I should be happy, right? I could finally send her home, where she could get the best care, live the life she was meant to live. So why did my chest feel like it was stuffed with concrete, heavy and suffocating? Why couldn't I feel a single shred of joy? Just then, the bathroom door opened. Rory walked out in my big t-shirt, toweling her wet hair. She saw the look on my face and came over, concerned. Dad, what's wrong? Her clear eyes reflected my own pale, stricken face. I looked at her, my throat suddenly dry, unable to speak. How could I tell her? Would she even understand? If she went back, would I ever see her again? The thought was a needle piercing straight through my heart. The missing person alert was still on a loop, the $10 million reward flashing in bold red letters. The photo of Aurora Sterling on the screen began to merge with the girl standing in front of me, hair still dripping, looking at me with innocent confusion. My mind was a chaotic mess. Dad, what's wrong? Rory repeated, waving a hand in front of my face when I didn't answer. I snapped back to reality, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. And nothing. Just watched too much TV. My eyes are tired. I fumbled for the remote and quickly shut the television off, terrified she would see the screen. The room fell silent, filled only by the sound of our breathing. She has a family. I should be happy for her. Her father is one of the richest men in the country. He can give her the best life, the best doctors. She can recover her memory, go back to being that confident, beautiful young woman from the photo, not the simple girl cooped up with me in a 320-square-foot studio. I should call the number on the screen. Right now. Immediately. But my hand felt like it was encased in lead. I couldn't lift it. I didn't want to let her go. The past month flashed through my mind like a movie. The first time she called me Dad, the way she devoured that first bowl of noodles, the way she twirled in the new dress I bought her, the way she trembled in my arms in the haunted house, the way she'd quietly cover me with a blanket when I fell asleep on the sofa. This empty apartment had only started to feel like a home because of her. My life had only started to have color because of her. If I sent her back, would I return to that old life? Working alone, eating alone, staring at empty walls alone. That crushing loneliness I had just escaped, was I supposed to dive right back into it? A selfish thought roared to life in my mind. Just pretend you never saw it. Hide her. Let her be your Rory forever. But the thought lasted only 3 seconds before I crushed it with brutal self-loathing. Leo, who the hell do you think you are? What right do you have? Her father has been searching for over a month. He must be sick with worry. Her life is supposed to be dazzling, not trapped here in this tiny box with you. If you love her, you want what's best for her, not to selfishly possess her. I pinched my thigh hard. The pain cleared my head. I had to send her home. That night, I didn't sleep a wink. Rory slept soundly, and, as usual, she rolled over in the middle of the night, using my arm as a pillow. I looked at her peaceful face, my heart aching with a bittersweet sorrow. I reached out and gently stroked her cheek. This was the last time. After tomorrow, she wouldn't be my Rory anymore. She would be Aurora Sterling, the heiress. We would likely never cross paths again. The next day, for the first time ever, I called in sick to work. I spent the entire morning psyching myself up. That evening, I cooked the most elaborate dinner I'd ever made, with all her favorites, honey-glazed chicken wings and barbecue ribs. At the table, Rory ate happily. I had no appetite, just kept putting food on her plate. Rory, I said after we finished, taking a deep breath and finally finding the courage. I found your home. The words felt like they were being torn from my throat. She froze, looking confused. Home? We are home. Not this home, I said, trying to keep my voice gentle. Your real home. Your real dad is there. He's been looking for you for a long time. He misses you. The smile on Rory's face slowly faded. She stared at me, her eyes filling with confusion and fear. I don't want to, she said, shaking her head. I don't want another dad. I only want you. Listen to me, I said, my heart twisting. Your home is huge and beautiful, 100 times better than this place. Your dad will buy you so many pretty dresses and all the best food. I don't want it. Her voice rose, her eyes instantly turning red. I don't want a big house or pretty dresses. I just want Dad. I just want to be with you. As she spoke, tears started falling like broken pearls. She slid off her chair, ran over, and hugged my legs tightly, burying her face in my lap and sobbing. Does Dad not want me anymore? Was I bad? I'll be good. Rory will be so good. I won't make a mess anymore. I'll wear my slippers. I'll listen to everything you say. Please don't send me away, okay? Her cries were filled with the raw terror of a child being abandoned, and every sob was a hammer blow to my heart. My own eyes burned, and I had to fight back tears. I knelt and gathered her into my arms, stroking her back. Silly girl, I'm not getting rid of you. I'm not kicking you out. I choked out, my voice thick with emotion. You belong there. I'm just taking you home. This is my home, she wailed, struggling in my arms as she looked up at me with a tear-streaked face. Home is where Dad is. I don't want to go. I'll die if I have to go. She cried until she could barely breathe, clinging to me with surprising strength, as if I would vanish the moment she let go. My heart felt like it was shattering into a million pieces, but I couldn't give in. For her own good, I had to be strong. I just held her, letting her cry, letting her vent all her fear and pain onto me. That night, her tears soaked the front of my shirt. The next day, I followed the address from the news report and took her there. She didn't say a word the entire way, her eyes just red and swollen as she clutched my hand like it was her last lifeline. The headquarters of Sterling Industries was a skyscraper that pierced the clouds. Dressed in my old t-shirt and jeans, holding Rory's hand, I felt utterly out of place on the gleaming marble floors of the lobby. When I told the receptionist why we were there, it caused an immediate commotion. A few minutes later, a middle-aged man in an impeccable suit, radiating an aura of immense power, strode out of the elevator, flanked by assistants. He was well-preserved, but his face was etched with fatigue and anxiety. The moment he saw Rory, his sharp eyes instantly reddened. "Aurora, my daughter," he said, his voice trembling as he walked toward us. Rory saw the strange man and instinctively hid behind me, pressing her body against my back and wrapping her arms tightly around my waist. She peeked out, looking at him with terror. "Don't be afraid, Aurora. It's me, it's Dad," Julian Sterling said, slowing his pace and trying to force a gentle smile. But his approach only frightened her more. "I don't want you. You're a bad man," she screamed from behind me, then buried her face in my back, crying out, "Dad! Dad, save me. I don't want him. I only want you." I could feel a wet patch quickly forming on my shirt. Julian Sterling's smile froze. He looked at his daughter, clinging to me with such desperate dependence, his expression turning complicated. He waved his hand, dismissing the staff around him. He walked up to me, his gaze imperious. The pressure from a man so accustomed to being in charge was suffocating. "Thank you for bringing her back. The Sterling family will honor its promise. The $10 million reward will be paid in full." His tone was formal, distant. "I didn't do it for the money," I said quietly. He ignored me, his eyes fixed on his trembling daughter. A flicker of pain crossed his face, quickly replaced by resolve. He looked at me and said, "You can go now." I nodded. It was time. I gently tried to unwrap Rory's arms from my waist, but she only held on tighter. "Don't go. Dad, don't go," she sobbed hysterically. "Are you leaving me? Are you really leaving me? Dad!" My heart felt like it was being ripped out of my chest. I turned, cupped her tear-stained face, and forced a smile with every ounce of strength I had. "Rory, be good. You're home now. You have to. Listen to them." Then I hardened my heart. I pried her fingers off me one by one, and without looking back, I walked toward the main entrance. "Dad!" Her desperate, broken scream followed me, a blade that pierced straight through my heart. I didn't dare turn around. I was afraid if I did, I would never be able to leave. Just as I reached the revolving doors, Julian Sterling's cold voice came from behind me. "Young man, you should understand that you and she are from two different worlds. A month of your care has made her this attached to you. But no matter what, she is not for you to think about." He paused. "You're not worthy." My steps faltered for a second, but I didn't stop. I pushed through the door and stepped out into the sunlight, which was so bright it made my eyes ache. I looked up at the impossibly tall building, my heart a hollow cavern. He was right. I was a broke nobody, and she was a princess who had fallen from the heavens. We were from two different worlds. I wasn't worthy. I got it. I got loud and clear. After returning Rory, my life seemed to hit rewind, going back to the same monochrome existence of a month ago. The apartment was once again empty and silent. There was no little shadow following me around in the morning. No one was there to greet me at night, but the cold, empty walls. There was only one set of dishes on the table. The spot on the sofa where she always sat was vacant. I felt like a vital organ had been surgically removed, leaving a gaping hole that the cold wind whistled through. The Sterling family sent someone with a check for $10 million. I refused it. I told the assistant, who was dressed like one of the men in black, that I hadn't taken care of Rory for money. He probably thought I was being insincere. He left the check on my desk, saying, "Mr. Sterling insists you've earned it," and left. I never touched that check. I was afraid that if I did, the pure, untainted memories I had of my time with Rory would be spoiled. For the first few days, I was a walking ghost. I was distracted at work, and as soon as I got home, I'd shut myself in. I would automatically cook for two, only realizing after the food had gone cold that the little girl who loved my cooking was gone. I threw out everything of hers, her toothbrush, her towel, her slippers. But I couldn't throw out the memories. Every corner of this apartment held a ghost of her. I started drinking, trying to numb myself with alcohol. But every time I got drunk, the only thing I could see was her crying face, her voice screaming, "Dad, don't go." I was a wreck. My coworkers noticed something was wrong, but when they asked, I just shook my head and said I was fine. I lived in that haze for another month. They say time heals all wounds. Maybe they're right. The scar on my heart was still there, but it didn't feel like a raw, bleeding gash anymore. I forced myself back onto the rails, going to work, eating proper meals, staying away from booze. I thought that was it. The story of me and Aurora Sterling was over. She would return to her world, the pampered heiress surrounded by luxury, and I would go back to being a nobody, grinding away to make rent. Our lives, like two intersecting lines, had briefly touched and would now diverge, never to meet again. I was wrong. I never imagined she would come crashing back into my life in such a spectacular fashion. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was at my desk, wrestling with a project proposal, when a receptionist called my extension. Someone was here to see me. Confused. Who would come all the way to my office? I went downstairs. I saw her the moment I stepped into the lobby. She stood out from the crowd, a beacon of impossible elegance. This wasn't the Rory I remembered, the girl in my oversized t-shirt with lost eyes. She wore a chic tweed suit that fit her perfectly. Her makeup was subtle and flawless, her dark hair fell in soft waves, and she stood poised on a pair of high heels. She radiated an aura of cool, untouchable grace. It was Aurora. She was thinner, her chin more defined, but I would recognize that face anywhere. My heart began to hammer against my ribs. She saw me, too, her gaze locking onto mine. I was frozen, unsure whether to approach her or turn and run, but she was already walking toward me. The sharp click-clack of her heels on a marble floor sounded like a countdown, each step landing in time with my frantic heartbeat. "Leo," she said. Her voice was cool and crisp, nothing like the soft, sweet tone I remembered. Ms. Sterling," I stammered. "What are you doing here?" She stopped in front of me. A faint, expensive perfume wafted from her, a scent that was beautiful but alien. The eyes that had once been as clear as spring water were now deep and unreadable, hiding emotions I couldn't begin to guess. She didn't answer my question, just stood there, watching me. Her gaze was intense, almost predatory, and it made my skin crawl. My coworkers were already starting to whisper and stare. "You're thinner," she said suddenly. I'm okay," I managed, giving an awkward laugh. "Are you? Your illness? Is it all better?" "It is," she said. "I remember everything. I remember everything." She remembered who she was, her family. So, did she also remember the month of Dad and Rory? As if reading my mind, she added, "I remember that month, too. Every single detail." My heart sank. "I'm grateful for how you took care of me," she said. "Why didn't you take the check?" "I told you it wasn't about the money." "I know," she nodded. "That's why I came to thank you in person." She paused, then took a step closer. We were so close I could see the individual strands of her long eyelashes. She looked directly into my eyes and said, in a voice only I could hear, "Dad, I came to take you home." That familiar name, spoken in that icy tone, sent a shiver down my spine. "Ms. Sterling, please don't joke around," I said, a cold sweat breaking out on my back. There's nothing between us anymore." My instinct screamed at me to run. My body tensed to back away, but she was faster. Her hand shot out and clamped around my wrist. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was like steel. Nothing between us? A chilling smile played on her lips, but her eyes flashed with a wild, wounded look of an abandoned animal. You left me. You threw me away to that man you call my father. And you think you can just erase everything with nothing between us. Her voice trembled with fury. Leo, do you have any idea what it was like for me? After I went back, I had nightmares every single night. I dreamt that you didn't want me, that you were never coming back. I played the part of the good little daughter for a whole month. I took all the damn pills. I sat through all the therapy. I fought like hell to get better for one reason and one reason only. So I could come back and find you. You? I was stunned into silence by her tirade. You can't escape, she hissed, her eyes burning with a feverish, terrifying light. You're the one who took me in. You made me yours. You were then, you are now, and you'll be forever. And this time, I won't give you the chance to leave me again. Before I could process her words, several men in black suits entered through the main doors and flanked me, their faces impassive. A wave of shock and murmurs went through the lobby. Aurora, are you crazy? This is my office. I snarled under my breath. Not for long, she said with a serene, almost unhinged smile. I bought the small company you work for, and its parent company. As of now, I'm your boss. She leaned in, her warm breath ghosting against my ear. That means I decide when you get to go home. And right now, I need you to come with me. I was completely and utterly stunned. I looked at her beautiful, obsessive face and felt a deep, primal fear. This wasn't the Rory I knew. Or maybe this was who she'd always been, and her innocence had just been a fragile shell for the possessive monster underneath. A monster that had now broken free. The two bodyguards escorted me out of the building, one on each arm. They put me in the back of a black Rolls-Royce. Aurora sat across from me, her legs crossed elegantly, watching me with a triumphant gaze. The car drove to a mansion nestled in the hills, overlooking the city, a place that looked more like a castle than a home. I was led inside and taken to a lavishly decorated room where even the windows had been sealed shut. She came in a few minutes later, holding a glass of red wine. She slowly unbuttoned her suit jacket, revealing a silk blouse underneath. Do you like your new home? She asked, walking toward me. She used her cold fingers to tilt my chin up. You'll be living here from now on. You're not going anywhere. You're going to stay here with me. Aurora, this is kidnapping, I said, making a last desperate stand. She just laughed, a sound that was both beautiful and terrifying. Yes, it is, she admitted freely. She leaned down, her breath hot against my ear. But you're the one who started this. You picked me up, made me depend on you, made it impossible for me to live without you. And then you threw me away. Her fingers traced a line down my cheek, their touch cool and dangerous. Now it's my turn. I'm going to lock you away, keep you all to myself. I'm going to make it so that the only person in your world is me. That night, she took me, not with affection, but with a kind of desperate, frantic ownership. It was a claiming, an act meant to erase any doubt about who I belonged to. When it was over, I felt hollowed out, utterly spent. In the beginning, I was filled with rage and defiance. I fought back. I refused to eat, but it was useless. She had 1,000 ways to make me comply. Slowly, I grew tired. I watched as she cared for me with meticulous devotion, feeding me, reading to me, just as we had in my little apartment, only now our roles were completely reversed. I saw how, only when she was with me, she would let her guard down, revealing the same childlike dependence and deep-seated fear of abandonment. My heart, against all reason, began to soften. Maybe I was the one who had been wrong all along. From the moment I brought her home, our fates had become tangled together, impossible to separate. She was just using a more extreme method to protect what she considered her home. One night, as she lay beside me, tentatively moving closer, terrified I would push her away as I'd been doing, I didn't move. For the first time, I didn't flinch. I reached out and pulled her into my arms. Her entire body went rigid with shock, then began to tremble. Dad, she whispered, her voice small, uncertain, filled with a familiar, long-suppressed vulnerability. I'm here, I sighed, tightening my embrace. Go to sleep, Rory. Nestled in my arms, she finally stilled, like a small boat that had found its harbor. She was asleep in moments. Moonlight filtered in through a tiny crack in the sealed windows. I looked at her sleeping face, a sense of calm washing over me. Maybe being her prisoner wasn't so bad after all. In this gilded cage, she guarded her obsession, and I guarded my penance. And so we lived happily until the end.